So hey guys, so this talk will be about how Inference leverages Ignite for distributed analytics in the bioinformatics domain. This talk is going to be broken down into a few sections. I'll give a short introduction about myself and what Inference does. Then I'd like to give a bit of context since this domain is new, it's fairly new, at least from the tech perspective. So I'd like to sort of answer what kind of questions do people answer in biology, and then we will go into how that translates into engineering requirements and challenges which arise from that, and then we will look at how Ignite has helped us along the journey and what a final solution looks like. So okay, a little bit about myself. My background is in NLP and engineering. I have been with Inference for around 2.5 years now, and I lead the engineering for the molecular analytics platform. A little bit about Inference. So, in the last 15 years or so, we have seen an orders of magnitude increase in biomedical data and also the availability of biomedical data. So, simple examples which most people are familiar with is research papers, the medical health records each of us have in the hospitals we visit, pathology slides, X-rays, MRIs, and those are the sort of examples of data which are increasingly getting available to for companies like us to sort of analyze and gain insights from. So Inference aims to sort of synthesize all this public knowledge into one platform and make it easily accessible. Additionally, when all these siloed data sources sort of come onto one platform, it allows you to sort of gain insights across data sources. So you can sort of triangulate across various data sources and come to far better and more powerful insights, right? So this is what we are trying to do, right? Uh, so what I want to move on to is like since Inference is trying to make scientists answer questions, biological questions in a better way. What I want to sort of explain is what kind of questions do people want to answer and how that sort of translates into what we want to build. Right? A simple example, like the most common example, would be like what is the cause of a certain disease. So one way which scientists would go about this is they would try to find the differences between a person, let's say, suffering from the disease and a healthy person. The differences might indicate to the causes of the disease or point to further lines of question. There are many dimensions on which these differences can arise. A very simple example, which all of us are sort of familiar with, would be body temperature. So the question would be then, is body temperature significantly different in the people suffering from the disease versus healthy people? Does that play a role? And if so, how? So these are the sort of questions scientists would want to answer, right? Based on the basis of the differences which arise between, let's say, a diseased population versus a healthy population. So going further into this example of temperature, um, like is body temperature different from the people suffering a disease versus healthy people? So we can assume that we have a bunch of readings from healthy people. We can call that group A, and we have a bunch of temperature readings from people with a particular disease. We can call that group B. On the right, you can see that we have sort of plotted both those temperature graphs. So in very simple terms, if you want to find the difference and if that is significant enough, the mean of both the distributions, and if it is greater than the threshold, we would say that, okay, the temperature between these two groups is definitely significant enough that it might warrant a line of questioning or a bit more, exploration. So with the simple example, what I want to sort of establish is that temperature is one example of a dimension of data which can be measured. Other common examples are measurements we commonly find in our blood reports. All of us have had some sort of those in the past. So those are some common examples of common dimensions of data which can be measured from the human body. Coming to molecular data is another class of data in the biodomain. So what is molecular data? At a very high level, we have DNA encoded in our cells. For engineers, the simplest sort of parallel would be, this is essentially the source code of our body, right? And the DNA then sort of gets translated into mRNA, and then mRNA gets translated into proteins. Now, the presence and the amount of protein present in our body essentially dictate all the functioning of our body. So, changes in the amount of protein present in any part of our body will directly correspond to how the body functions, how the organ functions, etc. So, this is a good place to sort of look for differences between a healthy population versus a diseased population, because proteins in and proteins, RNA, and DNA, these are sort of three classes of data where if anything goes wrong, it may or may not cause, it may or may not be the reason for the disease, right? So this gets challenging because if you look at our blood reports and all, we have 50, 100 odd dimensions of data. So those comparing to the populations across those dimensions is not really that big of a deal. But when it comes to molecular data, we have approximately 300,000 such dimensions. So what I mean by that is, let's say I go and get my RNA sort of measured, right? So the output of that report would be 300,000 data points for just one person, right? So like one data point would be temperature in the previous example which I did. So for molecular data, we would have 300,000 such dimensions. So let's say now if a scientist wants to answer, look, I have the RNA measurements from the healthy population and I have the RNA measurements from a diseased population. Uh, which dimensions are different, right? So essentially, we would need to do around 350,000 statistical calculations in real time, right? So an example of this is me, as taken back in the previous example, where we were trying to find if the mean difference in temperature is significant enough, right? So that is one example of a statistical calculation, which will sort of quantify the difference of every dimension. Right? So this is essentially what we do with molecular analytics. We try to find differences between two populations across a large set of dimensions, and different statistical calculations will try to capture the difference in different ways. Right? Mean is a very simple example and is frankly not statistically robust enough. Right? So, what kind of challenges do we face when we are trying to do 350,000 statistical calculations in real time for any particular user request? So large amounts of data are required for any user request. This is something which is unique to the bioinformatics domain, I believe, where each user request will touch a fairly large amount of data, right? So the data cannot be moved from the standard data storage layer or the data layer to the compute layer. The reason is that sometimes the network transfer time itself will be longer than the compute time. Right? So that leads to our first challenge, which is data cannot be transferred over the network for the compute. Additionally, since every user request is computationally intensive, uh, and we would ideally want to scale with increasing data size and user requests, the compute needs to be distributed. It cannot happen on a single node. It needs to be somehow distributed and aggregated back for the user. Right? Um, so we looked at a lot of open source tools, and we found that Ignite sort of fits our use case the best. Mainly two features from Ignite really, made us decide that Ignite would really work for us. The first thing is Ignite sort of supports out of the box sharding and replication of data. This allows us to distribute the data and persist it across multiple nodes. Similarly, Ignite also supports the definition, allows us to define any sort of statistical computation and execute it on each node. Whereas the computation which happens on each node would only touch the subset of data which is present locally in the node, right? So when we take this example of 350 calculations, we would sort of break it up into n parts. Let's take n is 10 for now, for an example. So we would break it into 35,000 calculations each, and each of these 35 calculations will need the corresponding 35,000 dimensions of data. So The data also is sharded accordingly across multiple nodes using the sharding feature which Ignite supports. And by leveraging co-located computing, these 35 calculations go to where the data is actually present. Then the computation happens, and then we aggregate it back, right? So essentially, what we finally built was we have a Spring Boot web server where we sort of define the sharding and replication strategies and the different type of analytics we want to do. And any data set which we want to import, we import from any external storage. It can be S3, GCP, or MinIO. Then, according to the sharding and replication strategies, we sort of shard the data across the Ignite cluster. And then, based on the user requests and what kind of analytics he wants to run, he or she, those computations are actually executed on local subsets of the data. And we sort of aggregate it back and send it to the user. So this is how Ignite helps us. And these challenges which we face, this is sort of in the bioinformatics domain at least. This flavor of challenges sort of occurs in a lot of places where every user request tends to be pretty heavy, computationally heavy, and also requires good amounts of data. So for analytics in general in the bioinformatics domain, Ignite really fits the bill for us. And yeah, so, so that was a short sort of overview of analytics in the bioinformatics domain and how Ignite really fits the bill. Okay, so any questions? So I'm sort of done with my presentation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your presentation, Rohit. So I haven't got any questions coming in off the Q&A section at the moment. I'm afraid I don't really have any expertise in the area to be able to ask you any constructive questions. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what your experience has been in getting this kind of computation done on Ignite? So from a development perspective.
Right. So I found that the definition of the compute and the sharding, essentially what we needed from a developer's perspective, I found it really easy. Defining how we can shard the data, and I really found the key value stored sort of interface of Ignite really simplistic to use, because most of these analytics do not really fit the SQL layer. We want custom logic to be run on very different model data. So I found the low level key value store API very easy to use.
Right.
Because it was really easy to start with. The key value interface allows us to model the data in any way. Right? As long as we can define a unique key, the value can be anything. So that it's low level enough for these use cases because we have looked at other sort of frameworks, but most of them sort of work very well if you have SQL queries you want to run, right? Or those kind.
Yeah.
If you want to run, the logic is really custom. So Ignite really helps us to define custom compute very easily and run it on chunks of data and sort of aggregate.
Gotcha.
So I really found the key value API really cool. Yeah.
The aggregations that you mentioned earlier in the presentation, these are all custom built on the key value APIs?
Yes. So the data essentially, if you look at the molecular analytics part of it at least, is mostly numerical. And if you look at it, it's around 350,000 columns. So SQL really doesn't sort of, it's better we sort of go to the lower layer rather than work on the SQL layer. So it's basically numerical data which we have stored in this key value sort of paradigm.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any final comments that you would like to share, maybe about your experience or anything else about the Ignite community before we wrap up?
No, I think, as I said earlier, the APIs are very easy to use. It's very easy to sort of experiment and sort of see if the use case works. So the setup and defining custom compute and the sharding strategies are very easy to sort of start off. I think that's really good because in a lot of the other tools, it was it took a lot of time to even sort of check whether we could support the use cases we wanted. Where Ignite, it was just a couple of days of work to get to a point where, okay, we can go ahead and further invest time in Ignite.
Excellent. Perfect. Again, thank you for your talk and your time today. Really appreciate it. And we hope to see you at future Ignite events.